Welcome back to Museys Modern Dreadfuls, my lovelies, and yippee-ki-yay, Musey lovers. Okay, so today's story is by PoloniumPoisoning on Reddit. And if you're new to my channel, you will know that after the outro sound, and in some stories you'll hear it twice, I might be doing 2 stories, but after the outro sound is time for me to tell you any extra info. So for now, let's just get ready. And 1, 2, 3, here we go. Yes, I know I should have done it. It's so simple. Just buy candy. It doesn't even need to be the good kind. Just leave it by your door. You don't even need to go through the trouble of interacting with the children. But I just inherited a farm, and restoring it was a lot of work. So I just kind of forgot. Besides, I didn't think the local children would actually come all the way out to such a bleak place. But help me God, they did. I haven't decorated either, so when I heard a choir of trick-or-treaters at my door, I just stayed really quiet and hoped they would assume the house was empty. It had been empty for months before I arrived anyway. After a minute or two of silence, they repeated it louder. Trick or treat! I'm not even sure I was breathing. For some reason, I was afraid of a bunch of little kids. The wind made their voices distorted, ghostly, surreal. Silence. Fine, but we know you're in there, Auntie. The fact that they said that particular thing in unison sent shivers down my spine. No group of children was that coordinated. And how did they know I was there? I didn't have neighbors as far as the eye could see. Still, 10 minutes after that, I was calm enough to go about my night. I just didn't dare go outside or go making loud noises. The next morning came, and I was hoping for some minor trashing in my property, but not much. Like messing up the haystacks or the paint cans, nothing big. And that's what I got. Nothing. Relieved, I started to think that everything was fine. Maybe I had just been rude and I should take my time to drive around and get to know my neighbors and their children. It was only hours later, when I went to feed the hens, that I realized something was wrong. As soon as I entered the grange, the poor things were all agitated and scared. Soon the horrible stench hit me. It wasn't the usual smell of animals and their waste. Something was rotten in there. I didn't have a lot of hens, only around 4 dozen, so it was easy to spot that 2 of them were dead, their heads bitten off. I held back my retch and did my best to calm the other hens down. They were mostly there for the egg, but since moving in, I had already eaten a few. I hated killing animals, and I made sure to give the poor chicken a painless and dignified death. Then I made sure to use all of its parts, honoring the chicken. Tearing off the head of a living being like that felt so disrespectful, unnatural, and wrong. I put on some gloves, cleaned the whole bloody mess, and finally fed the remaining chickens. Then I cried for hours. That was November 1st. Something had invaded my grange, but what? The other hens would make god-awful noise if a fox or a coyote approached it, and I'm a very light sleeper. On November 2nd, I woke up determined to get a shit ton of work done. I can't afford to let winter come before I finish fixing everything outdoors. My determination wavered as soon as I opened my front door and came across 4 dead rats. I swear I could hear children chuckling in the distance, but it could just be my paranoid imagination. Feeling observed the whole time, I repaired a big chunk on the fence. I just couldn't stand the thought of feeling outside in the dark. I spent my night very quietly, wary of every minor sound, then swallowed a fistful of aspirins so I could sleep. The morning of November 3rd came, and with that, 6 dead bats in my living room. I cursed as I realized their wings had been pierced so they were all tied together like a macabre birthday decoration. Just like I did to the hens and the rats, I burned down the poor things, and it felt like a proper burial. I couldn't work around the farm that day. It was all too much. Feeling lonely, I decided to call my best friend Lizzie. She was a stewardess, but luckily she was home, only a few hundred miles away from me. I told her about the bizarre incidents. Wow, all of this over candy? Children are super cursed. I'm glad none of us had any. Her chirpy and unconcerned personality always made me forget how bad things were. Even though my husband had left me because I found out that I was sterile and because I didn't feel too upset about it. I know I shouldn't have forgotten, but come on. Your family spent 35 years shoving hardcore Protestantism down your throat. Of course you never learned to take care about Halloween. Don't be so hard on yourself, girl. Just go to the city and buy some nice candy, then take it to all the little pests. I felt a little wrong to talk about my family now that my mother, my elder, was gone, but it also felt sort of freeing. I smiled because her idea was simple but very good. I would never think of that on my own, Lizzie. You're the best. Just because you're scared, but I've got your back. So, what's the plan with the farm? Mother's assets had come in handy when I was depressed over losing my husband and ended up being fired. She didn't have much, just an old farm she herself had inherited, the house I grew up in, and a smaller property as well in the city. Her second husband got the nicer and most expensive one and immediately moved into it with his brand new family. My younger brother, Nate, strongly refused to be responsible for the old farm and got the apartment. So I was left with the scraps. The farm actually became a project. It needed a lot of work, but I had time and knowledge. The main house was in a pitiful state when I got the keys, but there was a guest house that was livable enough. With no job, no husband, and an architecture degree, I figured I could make it really nice, almost all on my own in a matter of 6 months, while living inexpensively with my savings. Then sell it and start anew, or live there forever and work from home. Either way, it seemed good enough. I explained to Lizzie the plan A was selling it, but I could probably stay there longer. Ugh. I hate that those demonic brats are ruining your plan. Although you seem to be next to finish, and you'd be surprised with the amount of people that would love a mildly haunted house. Great. A blessing in disguise, I said bitterly. Lizzie advised me to go stay with my brother for a few days if things got too crazy. She knew that we didn't get along very well because Nate thought I was an old witch with no ambition, and I thought he often had a distorted, almost mean sense of justice and took advantage of people. But Mother's death did seem to bring us closer together. Besides, he seemed to be changing. He settled for the apartment, even though the farm is probably worth much more, because he didn't think it was worth the trouble. His usual behavior would be bothering for everyone until he got the apartment and some money. To be fair, I promised to seek help from Nate if things got worse, and we said our goodbyes. Things did get extremely worse on November 4th. I had to resort to good old-fashioned Valium to sleep that night and woke up to a flock of dead birds all over my bedroom. I wanted so bad to spend the whole day crying in my bed, but the smell of death was getting stronger by the minute. And I was so close to finishing. I called Nate and let him know that I wasn't feeling safe in the farm. I didn't go into details because I didn't want my brother and his wife, whom I didn't have the best relationship with, to think I was crazy. Do you want me to stop by and lend you a gun? I'd tell you to come over right now, but Sharon's mother is staying with us for a few days. You know how small the apartment is, he offered. I refused. What was I going to do? Shoot a kid? Shoot a ghost? I'm almost done with the renovation. Then I'll probably get a cheap hotel, I informed him. But thank you anyway. No, please, I'm worried about you. You're a badass, and I know you hate letting things go unfinished, but if anything else happens, you come stay with us. We'll find a way to fit everyone, okay? I was moved by how accommodating my little brother was being to me. Cleaning my room was incredibly disgusting, but my conversation with Nate motivated me to work really hard on the main house so I could finally start sleeping in there. I felt safer in the main house, but I couldn't sleep at all that night. I was afraid of what I would find the next day. I thought I heard faint steps the whole night, but I was probably just paranoid. I just wanted to sell the house and leave. By November 5th morning, I feared I would find 10 dead cats or foxes But there was nothing. Nothing on the main house, nothing outside. I went to the guest house and laughed like I was losing my mind. I had arranged a few pillows under the blanket, the old fake body trick, you know that one. Over my foot on the bed, there was a head of a raccoon, its eyes ripped off, and a note. "We won't leave you alone till next Halloween." Not 10 raccoons, not 10 of anything, just one. Maybe I was too headstrong for the cursed children and they didn't expect me to last this long, so things were getting harder for them, but I was done. On my part, I was finished with the houses and the farm in general, so it was time to leave. I was going to pack my things and stay with my brother. But first, I was going to buy some candy. I invited myself in. Sorry for not calling beforehand. I handed Nate my bag. Sharon and her mother were having dinner, forks paralyzed midair. I have an amazing story to tell you. Did you know that the farm is being haunted? But I think that it's quite charming. I always loved these weird things. Sis, is that so? Nate looked at me like I had lost my mind. So much that I decided to live there forever. I just need to stay with you today because of the deadization. I hope that's okay. Nate didn't share my joyfulness. Sharon seemed to think that I was suffering some sort of PTSD. Why don't I make you some tea? You seem tired, dear. I gracefully accepted the tea, then made small talk with my brother and his mother-in-law in a very happy-go-lucky way while I waited for it. Sharon brought me the boiling hot drink, but instead of sipping it, I dashed to the door with my mug in my hand. Nate, don't let that bitch escape, Sharon screamed fiercely. The police were waiting outside. After my neighbors testified that their children never went trick-or-treating on my property, the chief accepted to test the theory that my brother, Nate, and his wife, and probably her mother, were trying to scare me and make me give up on my property on his favor. And that's how I proved it. Their need for money was urgent. So the plan B was put in motion immediately. The tea was poisoned, and they were arrested. But you know what's funny? Nate insists that neither he nor Sharon pretended to trick or treat at my house on Halloween night. And they also claim they didn't kill my hens. They were simply spying on me and decided to use their spare key to terrify me on the next few days. I didn't believe them at first, but I just found a severed human finger inside my wine glass. And with that, we have the story, the fabulous story. Again, it's by, well, I'll put all the information below. In the meantime, we will get regular uploads, the holidays, and being a young mother, I do have little ones, so the holidays, but we will get back to our twice weekly uploads. Even more than that, I'm doing collabs, I'm working with more creators, and it's been fabulous. And I'm probably going to start doing my one playlist that has not been touched, the ASMR stories. More like, well, you know what that is. But there will be stories that I think I'm still gonna stick to horror genre stories, but we shall see. In the meantime, expect regular Museys Modern Dreadfuls stories, radio plays, what have you. And I will talk to you soon. Once again, yippee-ki-yay, Musey lovers, and double check your bell, because my bell's been acting crazy and subs have been talking about it. So there you go. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.